This video is about the famous people and celebrities who passed away in 1983 in the United States. This is the first episode. Before we proceed, please subscribe to our channel to support us. Gail Page. She was born in July 1910 and she died in January 1983. Her age was 72 at the time of her death, and the reason for her death was cancer. Gail Page was an American singer and actress. Page was a radio actress and singer before being signed to a Hollywood film contract by Warner Brothers in 1938. She sang on a Spokane station before getting a job on KYW radio in Chicago, Illinois, subsequently moving to NBC, where her network activities included signing on Fibber McGee and Molly. Page was cast as blues singer Gertrude Lamont in the 1935 soap opera Masquerade. Page made her film debut in Crime School in 1938 with Humphrey Bogart and also appeared in The Amazing Dr. Clitterhouse in 1938 before winning the role of fourth daughter in Four Daughters in 1938. She co-starred in this with Lane sisters and was the only film daughter not played by one of the Lanes. Page appeared in 3 other films with Lane sisters: Daughter Courageous in 1939 and the 2 Four Daughters sequels, Four Wives in 1939 and Four Mothers in 1941. Page was a semi-regular performer on the television series Robert Montgomery Presents from 1954 until 1957. Fred Church. He was born in October 1889 and he died in January 1983. His age was 93 at the time of his death, and the reason for his death was congestive heart failure. Fred Church was an American actor of silent era. After entering vaudeville when he was a boy, Church became part of a double act that spent 2 years on the circuit. After touring the United States in vaudeville, he acted in repertory theater in the central western United States, including the Selleck Company in Chicago. In 1908, Church joined Gilbert M. Bronco, Billy Anderson, and Western films for the latter's S&E Studios. He appeared in more than 200 films between 1908 and 1935. From 1928 to 1930, he made 6 films billed as Montana Bill. Church was born in Boone, Iowa. Another source says Quebec, Canada, and died in Blythe, California, near his home in Quartzsite, Arizona, from congestive heart failure. Doodles Weaver. He was born in May 1911 and he died in January 1983. His age was 71 at the time of his death, and he took his own life. Doodles Weaver was an American character actor, comedian, and musician, born into a wealthy Western Coast family. Weaver began his career in radio. In the late 1930s, he performed on Rudy Vallee's radio program and Kraft Music Hall. He later joined Spike Jones' City Slickers. In 1957, Weaver hosted his own NBC variety show, The Doodles Weaver Show. In addition to his radio work, he also recorded a number of comedy records, appeared in films, and guest starred on numerous television series from 1950s through the 1970s. Weaver made his last on-screen appearance in 1981. Despondent over poor health, Weaver fatally shot himself in January 1983. On radio during the late 1930s and early 1940s, he was heard as an occasional guest on Rudy Vallee program and on the Kraft Music Hall. Weaver made his television debut on The Colgate Comedy Hour in 1951. He performed an Ajax cleanser commercial with Pig, and audience's reaction promoted the network to give him his own series. In 1951, The Doodles Weaver Show was NBC's summer replacement for Sid Caesar's year show of shows. It was telecast from June to September with Weaver, his wife Lois, vocalist Martin Colby, and the comedy team of Dick Dana and Peanuts Man. George Cukor. He was born in July 1899 and he died in January 1983. His age was 83 at the time of his death, and the reason for his death was heart attack. George Cukor was an American film director and producer. He mainly concentrated on comedies and literary adaptations. His career flourished at RKO when David O. Selznick, the studio's head of production, assigned Cukor to direct several RKO's major films. When Hollywood began to recruit a New York theater talent for sound films, Cukor immediately answered the call. In December 1928, Paramount Pictures signed him to a contract that reimbursed him for his train fare and initially paid him $600 per week, which on-screen credit during a 6-month apprenticeship. He arrived in Hollywood in February 1929, and his first assignment was to coach the cast of River of Romance to speak with an acceptable Southern accent. In October, the studio lent him to Universal Pictures to conduct the screen tests and work as a dialogue director for All Quiet on the Western Front, released in 1930. That year, he co-directed 3 films at Paramount, and his weekly salary was increased to $1,500. He made his solo directional debut with Tarnished Lady in 1931, starring Tallulah Bankhead. Tom McCall. He was born in March 1913 and he died in January 1983. His age was 69 at the time of his death, and the reason for his death was cancer. Tom McCall was an American politician and journalist in the state of Oregon, serving as the state's 13th governor from 1967 to 1975. A progressive Republican, he was known as a staunch environmentalist and an advocate of sustainable development. Raised in Massachusetts and in Central Oregon, McCall attended the University of Oregon and went to work as a journalist in Moscow, Idaho, and in Portland. He started out as a newspaper reporter and moved on to radio and television broadcasting. While at KGW-TV, he produced a documentary, Pollution in Paradise, which brought public attention to air and water pollution in Oregon. McCall first entered politics as an administrative assistant to Governor Douglas McKay. He made an unsuccessful bid for Congress in 1954, losing in the general election to Edith Green. In 1964, he was elected as Oregon Secretary of State, and in 1966, he defeated Democrat Bob Straub to become governor. In office, McCall promoted environmentally friendly reforms and criticized overpopulation and excessive industrial development. Roy DeMeo. He was born in September 1940 and he died in January 1983. His age was 42 at the time of his death, and the reason for his death was homicide. Roy DeMeo was an American mobster in the Campion crime family in New York City. He headed a group known as the DeMeo Crew, which consisted of approximately 20 associates involved in murder, car theft, drug dealing, and prostitution and pornography. The DeMeo Crew became notorious for the large number of murders they committed and for the grisly way they disposed of the bodies, which became known as the Gemini Method. The crew is believed to be responsible for up to 200 murders, many of which were committed by DeMeo himself. In the later half of 1975, DeMeo became a silent partner in a peep show and prostitution establishment in Bricktown, New Jersey, after the owner of the business became unable to pay his loan-sharking debts. DeMeo also began dealing in bestiality and child pornography, which he sold to his New Jersey establishment as well as connections in Rhode Island. When Gaggy found out about DeMeo's involvement in such taboo films, he demanded that DeMeo stop under the threat of death. However, DeMeo defied Gaggy and continued the practice. Bear Bryant. He was born in September 1913 and he died in January 1983. His age was 69 at the time of his death, and the reason for his death was heart attack. He was an American college football player and coach. He is considered by many to be one of the greatest college football coaches of all time and best known as the head coach of the University of Alabama football team. The Alabama Crimson tied from 1958 to 1982. During his 25-year tenure as Alabama's head coach, he amassed 6 national championships and 13 conference championships. Upon his retirement in 1982, he held the record for the most wins, that is 323 as a head coach in collegiate football history. The Paul W. Bryant Museum, Paul W. Bryant Hall, and Paul W. Bryant Drive and Bryant-Denny Stadium are all named in his honor at the University of Alabama. He was also known for his trademark black and white houndstooth hat, even though he normally wore a plaid one. Deep voice, casually leaning up against the goalpost during pre-game warm-ups, and hold his rolled-up game plan while on the sidelines. Before arriving at Alabama, Bryant was head football coach at the University of Maryland and the University of Kentucky and Texas A&M University. Edward Howard. He was born in November 1877 and he died in January 1983. His age was 105 at the time of his death, and the reason for his death was undisclosed. He was an American prelate of the Roman Catholic Church. He served as the auxiliary bishop of Davenport from 1924 to 1926 and the Archbishop of Portland from 1926 to 1966. At the time of his death in 1983, he was the oldest Catholic bishop in the world. Howard was ordained to the priesthood by Archbishop John Ireland on June 12, 1906. He then returned to St. Joseph College, where he served as professor of Greek and Latin. At the high school department, he served as principal of high school from 1908 until 1916. When he became dean of the college from 1921 to 1924, he served as president of St. Joseph's. On December 23, 1923, Howard was appointed auxiliary bishop of the Diocese of Davenport and titular bishop of Iziora by Pope Pius XI. He received his episcopal consecration on April 8, 1924, from Archbishop Austin Dowling, with Bishop Daniel Gorman and Thomas Truman serving as co-consecrate at St. Raphael's Cathedral in Dubuque. As an auxiliary bishop, he assisted Bishop James J. Davis for 2 years. Thanks for watching the video. Please don't forget to subscribe to our channel. Have a nice day.